Thank you, Todd. As Todd mentioned, we've seen a decentralization of the music industry over the past 20 years, especially since COVID. And what we're finding is that musicians and music companies are leaving some of the bigger hubs, cost of living issues, being a small fish in a big pond, wanting to move back home and raise their families in communities that they feel, they're surrounded by family and friends. And so what we're seeing is that cities and states across the country are seeing the potential economic and cultural impact of this growth of the music sector. And these communities are looking, what can we do to implement policies and things like that they can actually take advantage of these influx, and or how can they help these startups, businesses, and musicians starting their careers in their communities. And I'm using my cheat sheet. And that these efforts at the state and city level economies are led by different kinds of organizations in these places. What we're learning, it could be local trade associations, it could be non-governmental organizations like the one in New Orleans that I work with, and it could be the Recording Academy. But increasingly what we've seen is that cities and states have actually been implementing or creating new music offices that can actually address some of these needs on the ground and either interact with their states or with the federal government and stuff. And so I'm very thrilled today to have three of my friends who are knee-deep in this business day in and day out, and they're gonna share some of their stories about what they deal with on their daily life in their respective jurisdictions. So I'll start on the far end. My friend over here, Jeanette Stanton, is with the state of Oklahoma. She runs the Oklahoma Film and Music Office. So welcome, Jeanette. Kirkenaer-Hart here in the crazy colored glasses that change colors depending on which shirt she's wearing. Kristina runs she's the director of the Dallas Music Office, as well as about 20 other titles she seems to hold. But welcome, Kristina. And Amy, is it Holihan? I always want to say Holihan because we had a place in New Orleans called Holihans back in the day. Holihan, and she's the executive director of Music Columbus, and she works in Columbus, Ohio. And so, welcome, Amy. So a number of years ago, a few folks like us and others that are part of this group that we're growing, were sitting around at a music conference a few years ago, and we were like, tell me about that program that you're doing in your state. And, what can I learn from the kind of work that you're doing? And so over the last couple of years, it started just as a casual meeting every now and then, and we've actually formalized a new organization that we are called the Association of Music Offices, and it does include those different kinds of organizations that we described. And I'm thrilled that all three of these ladies, as well as myself and about 20 others, have started this. And this is actually one of our launch events because we're planning to get this thing launched in this quarter and hope that we can grow more of this kind of activity in states and cities all over the country. And so our goal today with our conversation is that you'll learn some cool things that are happening in their states and cities and take them back home and talk to your leaders about it. And then you can call us and say, we'll help you build that in your city. So that's kind of the crux of what we want to try and accomplish here today. So before we jump into actual policy efforts, I wanted to kind of just give each of them a chance to tell you a little bit about how their music office got started, what are the kind of things that led to its creation, things like that. So I'm going to start with Kristina. I understand that that Texas is probably the first and longest running and only standalone music office at a state level in the United States. But can you give us a little bit of history about how the Dallas Music Office came about? And we're going to go into a little deeper on how you and the Texas office work together. But give us a little story about how you started in Dallas.
Yeah, so we're actually only 20 months old. We launched in June of 2024. It's an application. It's basically a magic ratio of hotels, venues, residents, visitors, and then someone to run it and someone to do the work. And then we get a certificate, and then somebody has to do the work. That's me.
Okay, that's short and sweet. There's way more to that story that we'll dig into. That was a little too short and sweet.
Okay, I will share one little part. So before I decided to even take the role, because my background is actually in fine arts, I decided to meet with a bunch of people in our Dallas music industry. And I had 6 questions that I asked everybody, and I wanted to get some kind of baseline to understand, what does our Dallas community need? What do they want? And 3 things kept showing up in every conversation. One was a bridge for young and emerging artists into the next stages of their careers. The second was, if we're a music-friendly city, why don't you hear music in public spaces? And the third was healthcare. And so that's how I started, and those are the 3 things that have been my main focus on launching the music office.
Awesome. And we're going to dive into some of those soon. So, Amy, I understand that Music Columbus maybe didn't take that traditional route of being sort of a actual government agency of sorts. Can you give us a little background on how Music Columbus came together?
Yeah, so Music Columbus is in their 10th year. This is our 10th year right now. But it kind of had a slow burn to start. It was started by a group of songwriters and businessmen who considered themselves songwriters, who were going to some songwriter sessions each week. And each week it would be a little less sharing songs, a little bit more, all these challenges are coming up for us. And then finally someone was like, okay, well, let's do something about these challenges, right? So the city believed in what we were doing after pitching this idea to build a nonprofit that can create a community where people in the business of music can thrive, while also really looking at it from growing the cultural and economic side of everything through music. And so they gave us a little bit of funding to get kick-started, and we sort of have slowly built out programs from there. And now we're funded through our Arts Council, and 11 years ago, right before we got started, do you want me to jump into that a little bit? Okay, our Arts Council got funding through a ticket tax. So a lot of that funding is coming from music already, and it goes back to fund our arts economy, and that then also helps the work that we're doing to develop the artists or the music scene. So,
And it's your office that administers how those funds are spent?
No, that's the Arts Council. So it's a complex web of collaboration, and we are unique, as Reid said. We are an independent nonprofit, which a lot of our other entities that we work with at AMO are really built into the city structure. So it gives us flexibility, but it also does give us some challenges in navigating all those things.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And Jeanette actually works at the state level, and I was just with her in Oklahoma a couple weeks ago. We were doing some advocacy work at the state. Music is fairly new to your portfolio, right? It was primarily a film office before, and you've taken on music as one of its entities. Is that correct?
Yeah, somewhat. So the Film and Music Office has been around for actually over 40 years, but it has been very film heavy. Music was added in like 2012, I think that's about right, before I was there. And it was kind of looking through music through the lens of film. So what they did for the film incentive is they said you get another bump if you use a local composer, Oklahoma licensing, in your film. And so that really kind of opened up the door for music awareness. But beyond that, we hadn't really pushed the envelope for what else can we do for music in Oklahoma at the state level. And so when I've been in the office for 12 years, so I've seen a ton of growth. But when I got the director position, I really made it a mission of mine to, film is wonderful. That's where the state has made its investment. But what about music in Oklahoma? We have as you probably know, there are so many really fantastic artists that actually come from Oklahoma and make their way to either Texas or Nashville, and create their IP there, create their businesses there. So why aren't they staying in Oklahoma? And so we've really tried to look at what we can do at the state level, which is sometimes very different than what you can do at the city level, to really create that music awareness. What do people need? What do our venues need? And so we've spent some time, and what's the low-hanging fruit for our office, right, that we can do? Because there's a lot of that we discovered that we're not doing. So especially over the last year, we've really pushed the envelope with music, especially working with the Recording Academy, which has been fantastic. Reid joined us for our annual Film and Music Day at the Capitol, which is wonderful. We're considering having a separate music day and splitting them up.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, one film music, one music day, and so we're really looking at what that looks like. So we've been really excited about it.
Awesome. Well, since we're in Oklahoma right now, not physically, we're talking to Oklahoma. I want to explore just a little bit about the work between the state offices and the city level offices. So we have a couple people here that can talk about it from both sides. So I know Tulsa also has a film and music office. Are there other cities across Oklahoma that have such an entity, and or what does that relationship look like between your office and the local office?
Yeah, well, so Tulsa has a film, music, arts, culture office, and they're fantastic. We work with them a lot on a lot of different things, and what's really special is, so right now in Oklahoma, there's the Tulsa that has that office. You know, Oklahoma City has a film office, Cherokee Film has a film office, and so what we've been able to do is really be able to split cost on a lot of things. So for instance, partnering with Tulsa on a specific music event, like we go to Americana together, so that's something we do, and we have an Oklahoma showcase, and so we can split the cost on, you know, hiring musicians to perform and what that sponsorship looks like, and so that's instrumental, especially on the state budget or any budget for that matter. But there's another office, Shawnee's, another city in Oklahoma, and they have a film and music office as well. And again, that's a city level, and we've engaged with them. They're very interested in what they can do on the music side of things. And so I think those partnerships are key because it's more awareness. We're all saying the same thing. If Oklahoma comes in with a bigger presence, it even puts Oklahoma. We want to be part of the conversation, right? And so that's just more general awareness.
Cool. So you started to allude to it, Kristina, about the Texas thing. Can you talk a little bit about the same thing, but the opposite direction, the relationship which you had with the Texas Music Office, and maybe touch on the Texas Music Friendly program, Music City program, because I think that's one of the most unique in the country. And it'd be great to replicate that in other states, because I know Tennessee's trying to do something similar.
Yeah, so the Texas Music Office lives in our governor's office at the state capitol. And that existed long before the Music Friendly Cities program launched. It's about 10, 11 years old now. There's over 90 cities in Texas that are certified to be a part of this. Again, that magic ratio of hotels, venues, musicians, and sort of the Visitors Bureau and impact. The beauty of working with the Texas Music Office is that they do a lot of the advocacy and work on behalf of all of the cities in Texas. So we reap the benefits. We have a tax rebate program for our venues. There's all kinds of incentives and things that they do at the state level on our behalf, and then we help implement it and get the messaging out to our venues, to our artists, et cetera. And when I launched the music office, you know, there's KPIs that they expect from us, and it was really easy to kind of just look at what they expected. Now, I'm a large city, right? And there's 5 large cities in Texas, but there are also really itty-bitty cities that have this. And basically the idea is you make it for your people, and you make the office work for your people. So even though Fort Worth is only a 30-minute drive to the west of us, their programs look incredibly different than Dallas's. And we're lucky that the Texas Music Office gives us that freedom to make it work for the artists within the community.
Can you give us a quick snapshot of what it takes for a city in Texas to qualify as one of those 90 Texas music-friendly cities?
Yeah, I mean, there's this application, and there's all, you know, it's like how many venues per capita. There's how many hotels, is there a tourism bureau, how much economic impact is there from the entertainment so there, from nightlife economy, there's all these different sort of measurements, and then if they tick those boxes, then you become a music friend. Do you have somebody famous from your city? I mean, there's all, like we were talking about Buddy Holly last night, right? Yeah. So Lubbock, really rides on Buddy Holly, but there, there's these things that they're looking for that make you a music friendly space. Yeah.
And just to give folks an idea of what the TMO, Texas Music Office, gets, they get like $10 million a year, right?
Yes, yeah.
From the government.
From the government.
And then they distribute that out through the
Yes.
Music Friendly City program, right?
Yes. Yes.
So just so people understand how they would give $10 million a year to music, can you tell us how that money is raised or collected or
lobbying? You mean on the Texas side,
Yep.
the music office? So they lobby for it. Every time they're in, they go and lobby for this money, and miraculously in Texas, yes, everybody, Texas, we get this money that it's basically an incentive rebate. So it's through alcohol sales, and it goes back and then our venues. So then I work with our local venues to put in the application, and they get hundreds of thousands of dollars back annually based on their alcohol sales. Yeah.
So as a musician, it's a little bit of a slippery slope, right? That we want them to come to the bar or the restaurant or the whatever to hear the music, but I guess alcohol's paying the bills.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But it means more money for them to pay the artists.
Yes. Okay. Well, we'll set that aside for a moment, and be thankful that they're giving you $10 million a year. So, Amy, I know. Can you talk a little bit about in Ohio? I know you were telling me that like Cleveland's trying to start a music commission. Are you working with other cities across the state, and is there any interaction with the state government right at this point? 'Cause there will be soon. I know we're coming to a city near you or a state near you, but
yes, I would say we are much more informal than Oklahoma and Texas right now. But we are, as I'm aware, the only music commission in Ohio right now. But Cleveland is putting a concerted effort to create one. They did a community census, and they've been looking at our model, and they are really feel it's valuable, so they're working really hard to get that initiative started in Cleveland. And we talk a lot with Cleveland and Cincinnati because we're connected only like 6 hours back and forth, and it's probably less than that actually. And then we've got cities all around us. So we're sort of acting at, as a space that we're really collaborative, and we've got the Rock Hall in Cleveland as well. And then in addition, being able to talk to all these different iterations of structures in different states and cities has been really helpful, because we're really sort of at the start of how we're going to build that in Ohio. But at the same time, we are in conversation with our state officials, and there is a bill in play that is modeled after the Texas rebate for venues, and we know our venues in Ohio are really struggling, and so we've been really advocating for that as well. We do consider ourselves, Music Columbus, to be an advocacy organization on the city level, and so all of this is very helpful and collaborative, and is helping us figure out what direction we're taking a lot of these conversations.
awesome. Thank you for the transition.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
You're very welcome.
So I wanted to let's talk about policy. So Jeanette, I was just up there a couple weeks ago. Tell us about the bill you're working on.
So for the first time, we have music legislation this session, and so we're pretty excited about it. And I had to really, Texas is doing some amazing things and was well aware of the venue incentive, but I had to really think about what makes sense for Oklahoma. And I've had some venues say, well, what about that? What about that alcohol thing? But you kind of have to know the legislative branches and understand, who are the people up there and what can they really get behind and wrap their head around, which is sometimes easier said than done. And so I had to think about it from a state level, what could impact the entire state. And so we do a lot of in-state traveling, so we go to a lot of small communities and meet with them either about film or about music, and how to really learn about, what their needs are and what makes sense for those communities. And there's a lot of small communities in Oklahoma. And so where I landed on was something to help the artist, but also something to help the infrastructure. So there's a lot of communities that have these wonderful places that could be venues or could be rehearsal spaces, but there's no money to make them better or make improvements to them. And even some popular venues, they still have to update lighting and staging and, keep all that stuff going. And so I landed on kind of a combination between music infrastructure and music festivals. So there's a lot of music festivals that happen in the state, but they're struggling as well, right? Because things are more expensive, costs are just rising. And so we've seen some music festivals where they maybe go 2 years and then they can't fund it anymore. So we did a combined bill for music infrastructure and music festivals where on the music festival side, if a rural community was having a music festival, they could get, their budget had to be at least $25,000, and they could get 20% or a max of $100,000 back on their festival spend, which would include hiring musicians, hiring crew, stage, whatever that looks like for them. And so a rebate program, essentially. So they have to do the spend, and then you can apply and get that some money back. And same thing for music infrastructure. So if a venue needed a new HVAC, new stage, whatever that looks like for improvements, they can also get 20% or a max of $100,000 back on their spend. So we're really excited about the bill. We were trying to we asked for $5 million for a pilot program, but they really wanted us to remove the money ask in order to get it through the House and the Senate. So right now, the bill has passed on the House side. It started on the House side. It's passed through Senate committee, so headed to the Senate floor and passed there on the governor's desk. And so we're kind of looking at it as like establish this program and have general awareness of it, and then next session go back and ask for funding for it, which is pretty normal, in the legislative world. That does happen. It takes time, but we're kind of need to create our kind of marching, soldiers up at the Capitol for music. There's a lot for film, but not as many for music, and so again, it's creating that general awareness for it. And we've gotten a lot of really great feedback that they like it, the cities like it. And in Oklahoma, the rural caucus rules. So that again we had to think about what could help for the rural areas and helping them develop their town, because Oklahoma's towns live and die by sales tax, right? They have to have sales tax in their community. And so if they can drive people to their communities to hear music and spend money at shops, that's going to help that community. And we've spoken a lot with Born and Raised is a huge festival in Pryor, Oklahoma. They also have Rocklahoma that's been going on 20 years. And just for that city of Pryor, they're bringing in millions of dollars in sales tax over a 4-day period. And so we have to look at it from that lens, is how can we help these rural cities really thrive through music and film?
Yeah, that's really cool. And Tennessee just went through the same thing. I was just up there a couple weeks ago. We did our first ever Tennessee Advocacy Day at the state capitol, and the bill we were working on was similar. They passed the Tennessee Live Music Fund last year, but didn't put any money in it. So we were up there this year asking for a couple of $1 million to actually pilot the program and prove that it's a worthy investment to the state, that they would actually hopefully put more money in it in the future. And that's how the sausage is made. You got to start at one piece and just keep on building on it. So I appreciate that. Seeing that our time is running really fast, I want to make sure I get to some of these amazing programs that these folks have going, and I don't even know where to start. We had dinner last night, and we had all these amazing discussions, and like all this stuff's rolling through my head. But I think I'm gonna start with Kristina, because I had the pleasure of going to the Texas Music Friendly Office Convention, or whatever we called it, in Corpus Christi last year, and you blew me away with some of the stuff that y'all are doing in Dallas. So can you talk a little bit about, well, one, I want to start with the baby band kind of opening slot thing that y'all developed. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so the Dallas Sounds Amplified?
Yes,
Yes.
I couldn't think of the name of it.
Yes,
I knew
yeah.
You knew you'd get me there.
So the two, remember I said the three things. So one was the sort of emerging artists and having that sort of avenue to the next point of their career. And why, if we're a music-friendly city, why don't you hear music in public spaces? So when I lived in New York, I learned about MUNI, which is Music Under New York. They audition the artists in Grand Central Station, and then they permit and place them throughout the subway, and so that they don't get ticketed, right? So I was like, I think I can do that in Dallas. I'm going to do that. And I knew where the levers were on the city level to go speak with the police and get them permitted and ask them about sound ordinances and time of day and all these things that musicians were getting ticketed for when they would busk on the street in Dallas. And then I was like, well, anyone who's going to want to do this program is going to be a young and emerging artist. So why don't I create a professional development program for them? So basically, we audition them at the beginning of the year. They sit in front of a panel of, I think we had 8 to 12 people kind of come and go throughout the day. It was open call from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Artists came and went. We had 75 audition this year. We took 32 of them. Last year we had 17 in the program. And they go through and we call them a cohort. We ask them what their knowledge gaps are at the top of the program when they're accepted. What do you want to learn about? What do you want to have access to? And we basically provide that for them all year long. I am office out of Visit Dallas, which is the destination marketing organization for Dallas. So we have a lot of corporate meetings and conventions that come through the city, and we get them all gigs. And now, because of the program, I have art walks and all kinds of conventions that are reaching out to our office, and I only gig out those artists that are part of that program. And then through this program last year, 5 of those 17 actually got Dallas Entertainment Awards. 2 of them have now have new managers, and 1 got a record deal. So the proof is in the pudding. I mean, something's working. And part of the goal of this is that we have historically had an export issue. We create these amazing artists and then they leave Dallas because they haven't felt like they've had a way to stay and a purpose to stay in our city. So my goal was to give them something, give them structure, give them community and network, and make them want to stay. That's
awesome. And Amy, you have a similar program too, right? That supports
We
music
do,
venues
yeah.
and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're all about the professional music ecosystem. So we have a similar program that we call our incubator, our Better Together Incubator, which is a 5-month program that artists apply for. And each year we work with 10 musical acts, and they basically get a boot camp every week, all business side of things, as well as artist development. So vocal training, songwriting, all of these things. They work with collaborators. They get a mentor that's already working and succeeding in our community. And then we set them up with LLC and their PROs and just give them the whole boot camp to make sure everything is tied up and clean. And at the end of it, they get recording time and a celebration showcase that we do a mini festival with all of them, which has been really successful. But then our other program, that leads into that is showcases of up and coming artists as well that we book at venues around town, and we have free showcases for all ages, and it's been really opening the scene up to a broader demographic and getting like under 18 into the scene as well. And then also for relief for venues, we do an internship program where we actually place students at music businesses. And as Music Columbus, we pay their hourly rate to work with them all summer and get mentored by a business person at that business. So it's venues, it's recording studios, it's radio stations, from that program we do every summer, we have a 50% success rate in them getting hired on to continue working. So that's something that's been really successful, really in demand, that we're hoping to continue to scale because the infrastructure, we want to grow it further.
Jeanette, are there any of those kind of programs? I was thinking, I'm trying to think of what Meg and Natalie, they run the Tulsa Music Office, so they were telling me something, but are there other kind of things like that that y'all are working
Tulsa
on?
has Tour on Tulsa,
Yeah.
which we sponsor that, so we help fund some of that, and so they have parameters for Tulsa artists that go on tour. So we try to sponsor a lot of things that other people are doing, a lot of music festivals or film festivals, because that's one way we can support. those initiatives. But, you know, you mentioned dinner last night. I mean, these two ladies are doing some amazing things, and I'm like, I love that idea. I wonder if we can do that at the state level. But there is a workforce program that we're piloting on the film side where it's actually federal workforce dollars to pay for apprenticeships on the film production. And so it would actually work really well for music. But, you know, I think for in Oklahoma, there's not, one of our struggles is there's not a ton of jobs on the music business side in Oklahoma. And was sort of the development of this bill was to slowly create, well, if there's more music happening, that creates more infrastructure, you know, and sees Oklahoma as more of a music hub in general. And so that's the ultimate goal, which takes some time. But, you know, we're all learning and we'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. And in Louisiana, where I live, a number of years ago, the Lieutenant Governor's office implemented a music ambassador program. And it's a program for Louisiana artists that are playing music festivals outside of Louisiana, preferably in Europe and places like that, because a lot of our musicians travel all summer to Europe and places elsewhere. But it offsets their travel costs, and it's based on the music. The musician themselves have to go land the gig. But if it's a festival that's been in existence for at least 3 years, has a minimum attendance annually of 10,000 people, it's all about how many impressions you make as an artist. And your deliverable back to the state is that you have to record a video of saying, come visit Louisiana, or, you know, come eat our crawfish boil, you know, come enjoy our seafood or whatever. But it helps the artists like book an anchor date in a European city, for instance, and then they can build other tour opportunities around that. And so I just love seeing that states are and cities are investing in those kind of ways that help artists figure out how do we break to that next level, you know. And we've heard a little bit about helping young artists get to the next level across the board today, which is really amazing. But we also care about their health care, right? And Kristina, you just piloted an amazing program, and I know I was impressed by what you had to say in Corpus Christi too about, and I know Tom's got something going similar in Fort Worth. Can you tell us a little bit about your effort in helping musicians stay healthy?
Yeah, so again, that third one that I kept hearing was healthcare for artists, affordable healthcare. There are examples of many cities that have incredible rebate, you know, medical rebate programs, or systems within their cities. So I had taken, you know, Austin has a program, Fort Worth has a program, and I'd taken kind of what they were doing, but I went to our hospital system and I was like, how do I implement this here? 6 months later, after speaking to many, many offices in our hospital system, they said this isn't a priority for us. So head hung, I found a private medical insurance company, and I worked with them to try to get a very, very low cost for creatives to be able to afford this care. At the end of that was 8 months later, and we just couldn't get it down low enough. And so I mean, truly, like, I'm the type of person, like, if I've put my head into something, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna figure it out. I didn't care how long it was gonna take. And a friend of mine was like, hey, do you know what this guy's doing over here? And he's like, you should have a lunch. And within 15 minutes, with this colleague of mine, we realized we were the missing puzzle piece for each other. So I launched a healthcare program for anyone creative in the creative sphere that lives in Dallas County can have healthcare for $65 a month. 4 family members can be under that same membership. It is a membership-based. It is preventative care. It is not major medical, to be clear. It is primary care, urgent care, and 8 mental health visits a year. You can add on for a very low discounted cost, and then zero copay on over 2,000 common prescriptions. And the beauty is, it is all telemedicine. So one of the things that I was really struggling with was that a lot of the programs that some cities do, you have to physically be in that city in order to receive the care. And I was like, but musicians tour artists tour, they go do art in other places, and what if they get sick there? Then they can't receive the care. So this was great. I had an artist, a muralist, who was in Seattle. He got strep throat. He went online. He did his virtual urgent care, and within minutes had his prescription at a pharmacy nearby, and he was taken care of. And it's just that his home address is within Dallas County. And that was all it needed to be. And so then because we piloted this, we actually have launched Stage Care, which is $75 a month. And you all are qualified for this. It is for anyone within the music industry. It is stagecare.com. I have a flyer. I can share all the things. It really is as good. I know it seems too good to be true. I get it. Again, it is preventative, not major medical. So if you break your arm, this is not for you. But there are discounts on urgent care, like major medical care. If you need an MRI or an X-ray or whatever, we have discounts. And then we have discounts on dental and visual as well.
So that's amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
And I just love that, folks at this level of city and state and all, they're thinking about what we as musicians need. So, Jeanette, earlier you said something. We were at dinner last night, and I learned about all these great programs. All of us are part of the founding board of the Association of Music Offices, AMO, as we call it. Very creative name, but it says what we do. Can you, each of you, give us a little bit of like what you've learned and what you think the value of being a part of association of other people who do the similar kind of work in other jurisdictions? Can you give us a little bit of your thoughts on what the value of that is, and then encouraging words for what others who live in other places who might want to help their local community start a music office and get involved?
Well, for me, it's honestly just hearing what other cities or states are doing and how they're doing it. I think it's invaluable. And to be able to have, you can totally like pick up the phone or send an email to them and say, have you experienced this, or can we hop on a Zoom? And, they're not, you might not know them, but because you're part of this organization, they always say yes. So for me, that's really invaluable. So like full disclosure, like this medical thing, like absolutely we'll be doing in Oklahoma. I think would be fantastic. So, it's amazing. And so that's the other thing too, is just to hear about other programs and resources. And we may not be able to do all of them at the state level, but we may be able to do a type of them or a form of them, or talk to Tulsa or talk to an Oklahoma City and say, can y'all do this? So I think it's just really wonderful.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, for me, it's about not reinventing the wheel. The work is being done in so many different spaces. We have an entire nation of people doing the work, and so the association is great because we can be collaborative, but also really listening to what the community is struggling with, and then being able to say, are you guys having this issue? Is it just within Texas or just within my city? And finding that there are these threads of knowledge throughout all of these spaces, and frankly sharing some of the legislative implementation and how things are implemented. Although each state is different and it's structure, a lot of times we can share that knowledge and then go lobby for that thing, and it's super helpful to not have to do all the research on your own.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I'm thinking about this stuff 24/7, so it's fun to be able to jump in with other people that are also thinking about these things all the time. And and not reinvent the wheel, and be able to adopt some of these things is so important. And we're sort of at the early stages and how we're going to build out through the state. And I think if you're in a place where you have a music office or don't, like, connect with the people that are also interested and start something or get in the space. We do a lot of networking events, and the momentum is building and building because it, as the conversation with AI, it's all about the human to human and getting in the same room with people. And we're able to help build that out for our community. And now we're able to do it on a national scale where our Columbus musicians and industry can connect with the broader industry without leaving Columbus, which is our goal, which is, they can live and build their careers from our community and have every opportunity available to them. So building out these relationships is just critical to that.
Well, and that leads to another point I wanted y'all to kind of touch on, which is how is it important in the work that you do that these folks who are our members and who are our music community, how important is it that they get involved, that they use their voice? I mean, literally yesterday we spent the whole day on Capitol Hill. Several people in this room joined us. We went and met with representatives and senators and their staff throughout the day talking about the bills that we were working on. But locally, how important it is to you, how important is it to you to have the support of the community around you? And do you have mechanisms in place for them to have their voice heard, whether it's meeting with a city council or meeting with a state rep or things like that?
Yes, so a couple years ago we did a music census in our community, which continues to happen in communities across the country. I know New Orleans has done it and others. And so that was a really good benchmark moment for us to hear from our community. Over 1,500 people gave us a lot of really detailed insight into how they make a living and what their challenges are. But we also, as I said, do monthly networking events and work really closely with other genres of creatives. And I think showing up and being part of those conversations, 11 years ago, that's what got us to the point where we were able to resource what we're doing through that ticket tax that I was mentioning earlier. And that has drastically transformed the way that arts are funded in our community and stabilized our organizations and given us the opportunity to build out our work. So that was all because of the advocacy that was done on a local level. And that really is where a lot of things start to change. And so I'm a huge advocate for that, is getting involved with your neighborhood, your community, your city, and really showing up and having those conversations. And also, if you're a musician, you probably have a fan out there that might have some influence, so use it. And that's my big recommendation too.
We have Music Advocacy Day so we go down to the state capitol, and I find that those are the people who are scrappy like me that want to advocate on your behalf. But you have to communicate with these offices and with these advocates. And frankly, the Recording Academy is the way to go. Our chapter shows up for that, and they're meeting with all of their representatives.
Yeah, and it's increasing for our efforts too at the state level. I'm thankful that Todd and Harvey and the crew lets me dig in deep, and like Jeanette mentioned, I've done their Film and Advocacy Day twice now, and it was great, and just thrilled to have the opportunity to work with y'all.